Here's something pretty cool. And this is this is the last story of the day. John Blackman turned me on to this. And I kind of missed this when it happened. But so I'm a fan of the Beat Generation. I like a lot of that stuff. I liked On the Road by Jack Kerouac. I read it in college, and then I got into a lot of that other stuff. I read a lot of the other Beat stuff. I read Neil Cassidy. I read Lawrence Ferlinghetti. I read Howl by Allen Ginsberg. I read Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. I read, even though he's not a Beat, I read a lot of Bukowski, which was kind of that same era. I went through my Bukowski phase. And then, of course, I read some of the post-Beat stuff, but still kind of loosely inspired by, like, Hunter Thompson. I've been to the Beat Museum in San Francisco a couple times. And I missed that Lawrence Ferlinghetti actually turned 100 years old. So check this out. Lawrence Ferlinghetti, the man who gave 1950 San Francisco its beat. He turned 100 years old this year. At the fresh old age of 100, Lawrence Ferlinghetti has gracefully outlived all of his flashier friends and contemporaries. He never disintegrated like Jack Kerouac. Never grew obsessed with his own mythology like Allen Ginsberg. This is according to the article, by the way. They're kind of putting down some of the other writers, but anyway, I'd rather just focus on hold on. Okay, here we go. Ferlinghetti never shrank from promoting socialist principles on the world stage as a poet, an activist, a publisher, and a businessman, repeatedly calling out the crimes of the American empire, from Eisenhower and Johnson to Obama and Trump. Ultimately, Ferlinghetti was always a better poet than a performer, and he always deployed his talents in support of world peace, equality, justice, and the democratic responsibilities we all share to produce the best art we have in us, however imperfect. So, the difference between Ferlinghetti and some of the Beats is that Ferlinghetti, and I think they all did to an extent, but some of them, they were like, we're outsiders, we're outside what's going on, in mainstream America. Whereas Ferlinghetti, he confronted power. He talked about social issues. He talked about issues of justice, and he really cared a lot. You know what I mean? I'm not saying the other ones didn't, but I think Ferlinghetti in particular was really confrontational about that in the contemporary sense and in the political realm. So here's what they have to say about his newest book. And again, 100 years old. So Ferlinghetti's new book is a slim, unpunctuated freestyle memoir, a final remembering of his life and work. Now, according to the article, it says, and almost certainly last. Hey, you know what? We don't know that. He's 100. Obviously he has more behind him than ahead of him, but he's got some time left. Who knows? He might have another book in him. You never know. But is there a reasonable chance this will probably be his last book? Yeah, there's a reasonable chance. But anyway, so it's a slim, unpunctuated freestyle memoir, a final remembering of his life and work. Throughout it, he characteristically avoids striking the pose of a great man, simply presenting himself in the image of a Chaplin-esque little boy, fumbling and striving to be better and more adult than he was, and always overshadowed by the vast historical conflicts he witnessed, from the Second World War through Vietnam and our endlessly never over till it's over war on terror. Sounds like a cool book. Now it goes on to talk about City Lights Bookstore, how he went on to get involved with City Lights Bookstore, which is, of course, the bookstore in San Francisco that Lawrence Ferlinghetti, I believe he is still the owner, and it was a big hub for the Beat poets and the Beat generation. And the title of that book is Little Boy by Lawrence Ferlinghetti. I'll be reading it shortly. Little Boy, Lawrence Ferlinghetti. I recommend it. I will for sure be reading it shortly. I'll probably try to get it from the library soon. And thank you, John Blackman, for tweeting about this, because I missed that he turned 100. I just totally missed that. I didn't realize it. And I totally missed Lawrence Ferlinghetti turning 100. Now, I have, I guess technically, I have met Lawrence Ferlinghetti. It's not much of a story, but I was in San Francisco. It was my first time in San Francisco. I went to City Lights Bookstore. It was the first and last time in my life, at least so far, that I spent 4 hours in a bookstore. I spent 4, and the time just flew. But I was reading different. I ended up buying a couple things, but it's a big store and they have reading areas. And I was just going section to section to section, and I was stopping and I was reading. And before I knew it, I had spent 4 hours in that store. And it was an amazing 4 hours. I'd do it again. But I left that store with my bag of books that I purchased. And who do I see walking by me but Lawrence Ferlinghetti? I was 21 years old. I had ratty shoulder-length hair. I was sweaty because it was a warmer day in San Francisco. I'd been traveling for a couple weeks. I had just graduated from college, and I wanted to see the West Coast for the first time. I'd never been to the West Coast before. When I finished college, I ended up going to Europe before I went to the West Coast of the United States. So I wanted to see the West Coast. I'd never been. So I went backpacking across the West Coast. Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, Vegas, spots in between. And as I walked out of City Lights bookstore as a 21-year-old, or wait, I might have been 22. It's not that important. Who do I see there but Lawrence Ferlinghetti? And I realized that was Lawrence Ferlinghetti. My eyes lit up, and I waved to him. And he nodded and waved back. And I did not have the courage, or I don't know if courage is the right word, but I did not have the gumption to say anything to the man. I could have just, hey, you're really inspired. Thank you. Thank you for everything you do. And looking back on it, had that happened today, I would have done that. I would have been like, huge fan. Thank you so much. And that's it. But I didn't say anything. I just sheepishly waved and then moved on with my day. So anyway, that's that. Oh, and somebody in the chat, Lady gives a shout out to Powell's in Portland, Oregon, which Powell's is also one of my favorite bookstores in the country. Powell's, City Lights, those are pretty much my top 2 that I've been to. I know there's a lot of great ones that I have not even been to yet, but Powell's, City Lights, and then I got to give a shout out to Boxcar Books in Bloomington, Indiana, which I'm not sure if Boxcar is still there, but I have a lot of love for Boxcar Books in Bloomington, if it is still there. But yeah, I've been to Powell's. That's an amazing store. That's bigger than City Lights, a lot bigger, actually. Powell's is pretty amazing. If you're in Portland, Oregon, go to Powell's Books. You will not regret it. I promise. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your